trying to be safe with them. And that's what meditation's taught me the most, is being safe with the trauma, the PTSD, all of the traumatic things that I endured in my childhood, and just being, okay, you're safe, you're okay. So I think the biggest self-care thing that I can give people is that really to start being loving and caring and gentle with yourself. You don't have to do everything on your to-do list, and you can't. And we're all like that. Like starting to normalize that we're human beings.
Yeah.
We're not really any worse or any better than anyone else. You are a human being. And so the minute you try to resist an emotion that's coming up, especially when you're anxious. And now this is not talking about extreme anxieties where people need, a little more help like I needed. I'm talking about just the anxious feeling that we get. Can I really handle this? And I think it's really about, okay, Barbara, you can handle this. This is good. You've got everything you need. Just starting to talk to yourself more like you would a loving friend. Like, what would you two sisters say to each other?
Yeah.
You would be kind and calming, and it's going to be okay. Tell me about it. I'm here for you. What's happening for you? I talk to myself like that all the time. Barb, talk about it. What's happening for you? I talk like I'm another person inside of me because we are. So I've tried to help people see that in a way that's a little bit more digestible and a little bit more easier to understand, that anxiety is normal. It's not going anywhere. We're always going to have bouts of anxiety from somewhere. And so starting to really treat yourself like a true loving, kind human being. And lately I've been reflect on words of all the great masters of our ancient times. So lately I've been really looking at the words of Jesus. And when Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself, it occurred to me, this is the first time I'm saying this out loud. And I don't think I've told you this, Michelle. It occurred to me in one of my meditations, no wonder people can't do that, because I'm all about, let's have a peaceful world, because they don't love themselves. So how can I love you as myself? I don't even love myself. It just went off in my brain. No wonder that doesn't translate for most people.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I had a friend who recently said something similar. Like a therapist told her, like these words that you're saying, like you're being the biggest bully to yourself. Like, can you imagine saying that to other people? And so it's like that self-talk is so important, because if we're bullying ourselves, oh, you're terrible at this, oh, you're fat, or you're whatever, then of course it's like it's going to build up. But if we're positive to ourselves,
or if even you're like, and sometimes I self-sabotage my mind. I'm like, oh, I'm so anxious. This is only going to get worse.
Yeah.
I'm in a spiral. Yeah. And so I love what you just said, because even just talking, I'm like this because I internalize everything. So talking, even if no one really understands what I'm feeling, talking just helps me and kind of eases kind of what's going on inside. So I'm going to start talking to myself out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that.
I do.
People think I'm crazy in the car, but
all the time. I talk to myself all the time.
Yeah, we all are.
What you resist and what you push away persists. That old, beautiful quote. And it's true. If you try to deny it's happening, you try to push it away, you try to pretend like you're not feeling a certain way, it is impossible to get through it. It's going to manifest somewhere else in some kind of an illness. 70% of all illness today is due to the mental capacities that we do to ourselves with the stress. And it's just being with who we are in the moment and being okay with it. Seriously, is the number one. And the way I do that is by talking myself through it. But it's got to make sure it's the right talk. Like what you just said, you got to make sure it's kind and loving and caring. So pretend like you're talking to your best friend or your most treasured person on the planet. You pretend like you're being as loving and kind and compassionate. Because if you get into that self-talk of what you were just saying, being a bully and being unkind, and you're in a rabbit hole that makes it worse.
If you have been listening along to the pod, you know we love high-quality vitamins that are worth your time and your money. Seeking Health vitamins are our favorite because they are not synthetic and they are easily absorbable.
We have a new coupon code exclusive to our audience. It's 10% off your first order from seekinghealth.com. So use our code TalkToMeSister for 10% off. That's talk2 with the number 2, me sister, for 10% off.
We will link all of this information in the show notes. Enjoy.
I kind of personally have a harder time like slowing down my thoughts. Like they're like, you know. So like Michelle, I would love to know from you if you have practical practical steps of doing what we're talking about right here of maybe of meditation or just affirmations, kind of like slowing down to find during the anxious time.
Yeah, Kathy's always like, I get more, I don't know how to meditate. I'm
Like
confused.
all of a sudden I'm more anxious in this.
I'm like, you need to meditate. You need to like sit quiet. And she's like, but I can't.
I try.
So
No, I think it's a good question. And I think there's so many people who think that they can't meditate or that their minds are just wired differently. But like my mom said, we like to think of the brain as a computer. And, if you have a computer and you have 100 tabs open, it's going to be slow and it's going to make that crazy sound and not work right. And you have to close the tabs. And so meditation is kind of like the practice of closing the tabs in your brain. And you might start with 100 tabs open, and that's going to kind of be difficult at first. And, it's going to take a while. But I think just like with anything else, any practice that you do, if you're practicing, a sport or an instrument or anything, it starts and it's uncomfortable and you don't feel like you know what you're doing. But the more you do it and the more you make it a part of your life, it gets more comfortable. But with meditation, it's not always easy because we're humans. And some days we have awful days where our minds are telling us awful stuff. And we're like, I literally couldn't want to sit with myself less,
Yeah.
But you do it because I think for me and often what we talk about with meditation, it's like checking in with yourself every day or tuning into yourself to see, okay, like what's up for me today? Am I feeling anxious? Am I feeling overwhelmed? Okay, like good to know because I can, work from that awareness and it's like collecting data. But another tangible tool that I think is helpful that I've practiced a lot, especially when I have thoughts that just can't escape my brain, is journaling, which I know is kind of, we hear about it all the time and it's, it's like, oh, it's like a diary, but so often I think, if I have thoughts that are going through my head or I'm writing stories all the time or I just can't get my mind to quiet down, I'll journal. And I feel like it's giving my thoughts a home, so that I can release it from my mind. And if you think about, your to-do list or things that you don't want to forget to do, you kind of ruminate it about your mind. You're like, oh, I can't forget to do this. But when you write it down, you don't necessarily think about it because it's on your to-do list. And it's like you've given that thought a home. So it's helpful for me sometimes to journal, especially if I can't seem to get my mind to quiet down through meditation or other practices. But it also, again, just like with meditation, it's like checking in, writing down my thoughts and saying like, oh, I'm really ruminating about this thing that happened. What's that about? And it's kind of like a way